Welcome to BPM's IPO Readiness Roadmap, a series of conversations with our leaders who know what it takes to lead a company to go public or determine if another option may be the best fit for them. I'm John Weems, head of business development at BPM, a top 50 U.S. accounting and advisory firm. You'll never guess who the employer of my guest today is based upon her shirt. Sarah, always on brand. We appreciate that. Our expert today is IT security partner advisory Sarah Lynn. First, let's talk a little bit about music. Sarah, we'd appreciate knowing what is your favorite song and what in the world does it have to do with IT security?
Funny you ask. I'm really a music lover at heart. My first 2 years in college I spent as a music major. So how did I end up in security? Well, I don't know, but some of that has to do with my favorite song, and that's Earth, Wind & Fire's Reasons, which is mentioned on practically every album they have, and I know practically every word to that song and can sing it, little off tune, little on tune. The reasons that we're here really matters in IT security because each business has a reason that they manage the risks the way they do. One thing is important and the other thing's not important. One thing becomes more important at a certain time. And so it's important for us as advisors to listen to those business reasons why something should be a certain way. There is no cookie cutter for IT security.
So Sarah, kind of taking a little step back, not all of our clients, as mentioned, are necessarily in an IPO track at this moment. Can you talk a little bit for a client for you, how early is too early for you to get involved?
There's no time that's too early as long as you have the budget for it. And you should have the budget for it as soon as you can. 2 years before would be really great so that you have the footing for your custom framework, whatever it is, your risks, your reasons for the level of security you put in place so that you're ready when the SEC or the venture capitalist or the angel investor or that big first client knocks on your door and says, how secure are you? Prove it.
So, Sarah, if an executive team maybe is not focused on the public markets, you threw out some possibilities there. Why would they need your team?
Well, for the same reason. Now, if you're going public, there are some very specific rules to IPOing and SPACs and what the SEC requires, and those are usually lined up with financial rules. So they're very specific. When you're going to a venture capitalist, an angel investor, another major acquirer, or even that first big customer, they generally have their own idea of what security is, and they want you to be equally as secure as they are. So they're going to ask, do you have any certifications, attestations, authorizations? Do you have a risk assessment? How often do you have it? What is your risk profile? They're going to ask a lot of questions because they want to know. And having this information already compiled in a certification, attestation, authorization, a bridge letter, or a risk assessment from a third-party recognized advisor, such as ourselves, means something in the business world. Means that you are something in the business world, you have reached some level of authorization in their minds.
Perhaps they've not yet been exposed to the alphabet soup of different certifications in your own. We won't go too deep into it, but do you mind just touching on a few of those certifications that they may be asked?
Absolutely, and there is an alphabet soup. So the one that is most common is ISO 27001 or 002, and that's the International Standards Organization, ISO. It is a little over 100 controls with some principles called the Information Security Management System sitting on top. In my mind, it's one of the easiest, but it is not, let's say, easy peasy. It might take you a few months to a year, depending on where you are. There's SOC 2, which is attestation offered through a CPA licensed firm that would be doing the SOC 1 or the SOC 2 or the SOC 3. Those are more based on security type principles, like trust principles, and then they sit on top of your controls. And then there's the additional alphabet soup of GLBA, CCPA, GDPR, FISMA, HIPAA, et cetera, FedRAMP. And we can support you and advise you anywhere along there where a company is asking you where you fit.
Sarah, can you share a little bit of a success story when your team has come and gotten involved?
I'd like to give one about 3 years old, really, because I'm very proud of how it's turned out, and I think they are too. I won't name the firm or the company, but they're an LA-based company, and they do a software as a service, and we are pretty good experts in software as a service platforms since I've been working in that area before that term was even coined. They were in a position 3 years ago just to prove that they could be GDPR compliant because they were about to talk to some partners in Europe. We came in and did an analysis just for GDPR, which is the privacy regulations and guidance for the EMEA. We recognized that they were lacking in the basics for the rest of security. Privacy was important, yet what about these other domains? What about these other areas like access control and risk management, and et cetera? So we spent some time, a little over a year, on both things, and they were able to get their partnership with the European firm desired, and then build on that security framework. And the outcome was that that company acquired them. And those controls were majorly important. That framework was majorly important. The fact that they had the assessment for privacy from a third party was majorly important. And today we're still working with this company, but in a completely different capacity, digging deeper into some things that they can enhance performance on in the areas of security. We were instrumental in helping them get to that acquisition just by being able to prove that they had the privacy framework in place, although they didn't at the beginning. Then they had a security framework in place, although they didn't at the beginning. And now they moved into certification and acquisition, and I think it's in a great spot.
That's exciting. Congratulations. So, Sarah, last question for the day. What trends are you seeing in the marketplace? I know there's a lot of movement right now with employees all around the globe. For your clients, what is the impact of that? And maybe some closing thoughts for our founders and other executives out there.
Yeah, well, the big trends, believe it or not, it sounds all small. Everybody's worried about ransomware. Everybody's worried about the remote worker. They sound small, they sound insignificant. Everybody thinks no one goes after them, but they're wrong. The big corporations are now grappling with, here we are 15, 16, 17 months into our pandemic procedures that probably did not exist when the pandemic started. And we're finding that all the things we wrote in our BCP and DR, business continuity and disaster recovery plans, did not ever include the majority of employees living at home, or the majority of employees sitting on their own network at home with no control except for the laptop and VPN. That there's no firewall, there's nobody patching my network at home, there's no one controlling the kids downloading from Nickelodeon onto the same network that I'm working on and sharing this data. There's no guarantee that I am on VPN if no one ever enforced VPN. So there's all these little things that sound insignificant that are now really insignificant if you talk about a large company with 5,000 employees or 10,000 employees or 60,000 employees. But even take the small company, let's say the small company with 30 employees, who everyone has always had their own machine. They never had corporate machines. It didn't ever seem like a big deal. Everybody always managed their own patches, and now they just are not sure. When their customer files leak, they don't know where it came from, and they're not sure it didn't come from within. When information leaks, they're not sure where it came from, and they're not sure it didn't come within. And when I say within, I don't mean with malicious intent. I don't mean that there's necessarily a malicious person sitting inside every company, although we don't know. I don't mean that. What I mean is that there are leaks and cracks in every company unless you're constantly patching and looking. If you have a baby at home, if you have a sippy cup and you put it in that dishwasher over and over and over again, eventually what happens? It has a leak or a crack. And it may have been the most expensive sippy cup you could have bought on the planet, and then all of a sudden it's no good. So we always have to keep checking, watching, patching, and I think this is one of the biggest things that all companies have to grapple with is who's doing the looking, who's doing the patching, who's doing the checking, how often are they doing it, and are we doing it right? And that's where I'd like to come help you out if you need it.
Well, Sarah, thank you very much for joining today. Sarah is sincere in her invitation. She's always happy to have, conversations, initial, pro bono. Please connect with Sarah on LinkedIn, follow BPM's YouTube channel, and stay tuned for upcoming episodes. And we're always happy to answer your questions along the way. Thank you.
The reasons that we feel our feelings won't disappear. Oh! And after the love games have been played and all our illusions are just a parade, and we have only reasons